something?
Oh yeah. Does anybody want like
stickers?
cornet or chicharron?
Bottle of
Doesn't
wine.
matter.
Bottle of wine.
No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
Alright. So I think it's recording now. Yeah. Hope it's not intimidating. I think it should pick up well so you don't have to like lean to speak into it. So thanks again everybody for coming. We have a lot of questions, but if we don't get through them all, that's okay. So my first question kind of right off the bat, whatever your background is as community, people who are in the community, if you're a community leader, if you're in business, what is your kind of perception or your take on what the business climate is in like the Daly City, South San Francisco area in terms of Filipino businesses? And you don't have to own a business, but like what is your take when you see, when we talk about like Chinatown and that's an enclave, right? You see like all of this like these community of businesses. When you think about like our community, what's your perception of what that looks like in terms of the climate, the business climate?
I mean, I guess from my perspective, I'm not from Daly City. I'm actually from Florida. So for me, what I see in like South San Francisco and Daly City is, there's a lot of like older businesses in the beginning that started that movement, but then there's no new development. There's no new people or new businesses out there that are continuing that growth of Filipino-owned businesses.
Yeah.
So that's what I kind of see. Is like it's just you got the old mom and pop spots, but then there's no one else that's kind of like bringing it something new to the table to reinvigorate like that drive that people want to open a business.
Yeah. Which is why we were talking about like the pipeline, right? And like what we need to do to have collaboration and like cohesion, so that maybe we can have kind of like be more like organized or on a united front about like how do we like maintain, how do we create that legacy? How about people who are just like, you don't have to be, a business owner, but like someone who's a patron or anything like.
All of us.
Yes.
So, go ahead. You first.
My gut response is like it feels flat.
Right.
Like, there's nothing honestly exciting to look at. I grew up right at Mission Templeton, so that's like the San Francisco Daly City border, and that part of Mission Street that leads up to the top of the hill, Daly City. I always tell my mom, I was like, oh, it's kind of like this forgotten part of Daly City, but yet there's so many businesses lining that street that leads up to Kellogg's. But like it's so like flat, and it would be nice to have more Filipino modern infused business owners to even change the housing even so
Are there a lot of I'm not from Daly City, my wife's from here, but are there a lot of Filipino-owned businesses that aren't like food and things like that?
I think that's the thing I was gonna say. I was gonna bring up is it's food centric, and obviously as Filipinos, it's part of our upbringing, right? So it makes sense. But I sort of echo the same thoughts. It's very it's like they started the businesses a long time ago, and then there hasn't been an evolution, with the exception of Kellogg's. I feel like you guys are bringing that new flavor. And then, I mean, South City, I feel like there's some restaurants that have been sort of revamped a little bit to bring in new business, but I think for the most part, again, similar to what everyone's saying, it's kind of just stopped, or not stopped, but it hit like a plateau and kind of just it's there, and so it's interesting to see like what's next, or what can be, especially when you sort of introduce like new energy or new blood into that sort of thinking. What else type of businesses can we bring in, whether it be a storefront or other,
You know how you read on the news a lot that people are leaving the Bay, whether it's the housing or rent control, whatever. Restaurants are closing left and right. People can't afford the rent anymore. There's not a lot of people who can afford to eat out. There's this big discrepancy between those who have lots of money, who are just waiting to spend it, and then those who are just barely making the cut. I think, you know how you guys are saying we are not really progressing forward as fast as things used to be, perhaps. I think, and it's just my opinion, and with Chalugs and how we teach and what we're teaching our people and what we want it to go outside, is that people probably have they have a vision, but they're trying to chase after it because they have a wrong why. Their purpose is wrong, and it's very short-lived. Sometimes it's monetary, sometimes it's for the sake of, I want to help people, but then I want to make lots of money. I want to be very successful. It's very greedy. It's greed that drives them, and that's very short-lived, because what happens when you run out of your resources? What's going to fuel you? And what we teach with Chalugs is that, we want to stand up restaurants or provide services to help people, so that it builds the momentum and it's exponential growth, because it's not our generation that may succeed. It's the following generation, right? We may be the ones that are sowing, but we may not reap it. It might be the kids. It might be the following generation. And I think with Filipino culture, sometimes there's a lack. Sometimes it's the mentality. Sometimes it's how we may feel oppressed. We may feel that we are minority, that we're not at this level. I think with Chalugs and what I've learned is that, and like what Chel was saying, that you just have to be. You just have to do it. You have the confidence in yourself already, and then it's just, you need to surround yourself with the people who are just like you, because you have to build yourself up. You need the community to be like, hey, I got your back. Hey, this is your weakness. Hey, it's my strength. Let me help you. I got you. And you know what? You want to start this? Let me help you with that too. But it's surrounding yourself with the right people. But there's so much in the world, or in the Bay, so many things that are happening. Like, people are leaving left and right. We're focusing on the negative left and right. So I think, like, today, seeing and hearing people from our backgrounds and where, what we're coming from, what we want to do in the community is great. We just have to, have strongholds with it. That's my opinion. And that's kind of how I see it here,
Yeah, so kind of, what you're saying about, like, people's why, and, like, it's so great that Chalugs is doing what they're doing in terms of, like, sharing the knowledge, right? Knowledge exchange and transfer. How, in your opinion, I know that a lot of people have, like, different reasons why they get into business, but how can we bridge that? How can we, in your opinion, like, we see the challenges, but what does it take for us to kind of build that cohesion, or have people talking amongst each other, like the business community, business owners, to kind of think more about this? What are some ideas about how we can do that? Is it just going door to door?
I think hosting, like, these speaker panels that I've been to several for Jason when he's speaking, and I think those panels, like, it's like an open door. Because for me, like, I'm not Filipino, first of all. I'm not from here. I'm from San Francisco. Very different. And just seeing how he's so connected to the community, even though he is American, doesn't know Tagalog, whatever. But he, like, it takes so much pride in, like, helping others and connecting people to other people. And I've been on lots of coffee dates or, like, cocktail dates with him for people who need help. He really likes to help people. He's like, he really takes pride in, like, if you want to have coffee, let's go.
Yeah.
And that's
great.
that he's giving.
Yes.
It's free.
I think it's good to the community aspect is important, right? And I actually think that's what separates us from previous generations is the desire to want to help each other. Not that our parents didn't want to help each other, but I feel like a lot of times a lot of people, especially like first generation, they come here and they're so focused on succeeding, for their own, that it's hard for them to extend a hand. Not obviously there's different examples, but I think now that people are more aware that, hey, we do have to stick together as a community to try to support each other. It becomes, like you said, the door is open for so many others that might not feel like they have that support, or because I feel like sometimes people have these ideas and it's just that one thing that'll push them to do it.
Yeah.
But if they don't see it, it'll never come to fruition. And so the community part is definitely important.
I was reading an article about like kids that are getting bullied, and that they get bullied because of their parents. It starts with the parents not liking what they do. They don't enjoy their jobs, and when they come home, they bring it out on their kids. Like, work was so terrible today. Go home, dear. Go do your homework. Go to your room. Like, they don't want to spend time with their kids. So the kids are bullied by their parents. So they bully outside. But basically, it's kind of like it stems from the parents not liking what they do. They're not passionate about what they do. Here, we come together, everyone loves what they do. Instead of chasing corporate because maybe they realize it's not for me, I'm going to open up a restaurant. I'm going to be a teacher. I'm going to do something that they're very passionate about. You ask the question, how can we bridge the gap, or how can we get people to do whatever it is that they want to pursue? I think that if we live our lives in whatever platform you're in, if you're in the restaurant, whatever industry you're in, if you passionately show you love what you do, it rubs off, right? You'll see that people follow you. You'll find that people are like, what is it that you're doing? Because I want to do that. Because you're so passionate and you're so happy and you're successful because you love what you do. You're not chasing it for the wrong reasons. You're chasing it because I like it.
Yeah.
So more and more people are, it's not that you're looking for them. They look for you. They find their way to you. And I think with us, that's how we do it. Like, it's just a platform. We have a platform. It's the restaurant already. And so whoever comes into the restaurant, that's where they're immersed in. And then whoever we hire, that's where they learn. Whoever is a patron, they see the culture. They see we love what we do. And then we hope that it rubs off. Eventually, people might realize, they look like they really like what they do. It's just the restaurant. It's just a restaurant. But by finding out what you like to do, then you might find the confidence to go and do it. You know what I mean? Like, I think for me, that's how I feel. Just do what you do every day. Be passionate about what you do, and then people will see that. You'll be the light, and people will follow.
Yeah, that's really good.
If you follow that in your whole life, then you'll attract people naturally.
Yeah, I think that what you said, like what all you guys, like what the last three guys said, it was really, I work with youth a lot in the Philippines, and our platform is sports. And for most kids at that high school age that we come in contact with, they've been kind of told what to study because this is going to get you out here and this is a good thing that you can help the family, right? But the only thing they really know they're passionate at that time is like volleyball, basketball. So we use that and we challenge them through that platform, but it is really only about helping them discover a process of pursuing your passion, so that when you find either that next passion or your real passion, you already know how to go after it. The culture of practice, preparation. And that's what you're talking about. And what you were talking about was when I don't feel like there's not enough for everybody, that I can't help you. That's when, if you have a community of passionate people who are willing to share, hey, this is my story, this is what happened, and young people can plug into that. So if they're not into sports, if they're not into food, if they're not into whatever it may be, they're still around that culture of passion, pursuit, and the thing where things aren't scarce. It's not I can't give you all the secrets or whatever it is, where they come into a place where here's everything, and I'll sit down with you in coffee, whatever you need, and here's everything, but you gotta do it, And I think that I mean, I didn't have that
Yeah.
growing up. You know, you had to fail and, you know, try to go to whatever, you know, job my parents wanted me to do before I figured out I can only just do the thing that I love. That's it, you know. And I do believe that, like, you've probably experienced this with your program, but maybe not right away, but with that consistent exposure to you pursuing, you doing your thing, they see it. Yeah, it might take 4 years or whatever it is, but it, you know, it for sure happens. I've seen it, and it's just so many times we just luckily fall into those relationships rather than having an intentional, like, community of people who, hey, why don't you come talk to these guys? Why don't you come sit down and tell them who you are, you know? I think I'd love to see more groups like that kids and young people can come into, you know?
It makes me like think about, you know, the whole crab mentality. Like there's
Yeah.
papers on it, there's books about our community being that. But you know, this generation, there's a shift, right? There's that shift of definitely less of that because I just absolutely feel no kind of like ugly competition here, you know?
Right.
Unlike I want to say like our parents' generations and our aunties who are here, they're like, my food business is better than yours. Don't go to that catering business.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, don't get their fun sit. You know, mine's better.
My fun sit's better.
Yeah, and they'll even kind of blast that, right?
Yeah.
But there's nothing wrong with that. That was that generation. But I think this generation, awesome.
Yeah.
I think it's all in line with, God, this pipeline that, you know, you guys are forming out of Shed Logs Foundation.
And
That's
you
cool.
know, if you get one person, that's one more person than you didn't have before.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So we can provide many programs, we can have all the resources, and you want a big turnout. But if you can just get one person,
It's
You
not
got
gonna be
it.
everybody.
It's not everybody.
You make a difference.
as long as you get one person who takes what you say, who actually is ready to change their heart, to change their mind, you got one passionate person. I'd rather have one strong person than 100 people who are mediocre, who are
Like,
Yeah.
one foot in, one foot out.
yeah, just
for
get
sure.
one person, honestly.
So if anyone doesn't have anything else to say about that, I want to kind of move on. So in terms of like, you know, what Chellux is doing with like training and being able to kind of, you know, empower and pass things down, what would it take, you know, being in the business, but also among entrepreneurs and professionals, as everyone here is a professional, what do you think would be a benefit that would encourage or promote this idea of us collaborating or more collaboration, like for a business to be like, well, I see what Chellux is doing, they're paying it forward and like passing skills down, right? What do you think is needed? Like what benefits would, or what incentives would help for businesses to get involved in in helping kind of like come together to collaborate or to inform others about how they can do the same?
Like outside of the Filipino American community, or are you talking about just?
No, I'm just saying within like existing professionals, business owners, entrepreneurs. I mean, this is kind of like this is kind of like a platform for that. But I know everybody's busy. What benefits for you professionals and like people who are in business? What's like an incentive to keep you engaged or to be able to like share what you know? So maybe another business or someone who's not, you know, in the business of like paying it forward or creating some sort of like knowledge transfer type of training or program. What would be a benefit that you'd need to like buy into something to collaborate?
Ooh, that's a tough one.
Yeah,
I'm just trying to think of
Yeah.
I know everybody's busy and you know time is precious.
Yeah.
So, something mutually beneficial. What does mutually beneficial look like? Or we can like sit on that one if people want to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
People want to want to kind of sit on that, and then we can come back to it later. Does that make sense? Because I know that's kind of like, that's being very specific.
Well, it's hard for me to answer because like I work in, I mean, I don't necessarily work with youth anymore directly, but I'm still kind of in that world. So that generating those kind of opportunities is what I would be trying to do anyway. So it's a little, I can't answer for like a for-profit like business because I'm just in the. If I was running a business like that, I would do it, follow that kind of model. But it's hard. I can't answer that for other.
It's hard to like if companies don't see the value in like being able, like having an opportunity to like mold someone's future, they might not buy in. To them we might just be like labor or something. So that's hard. That is a hard question to ask. Answer. Right?
I guess a way to if this was a longer strategy session around that is how do you tap into people's greed in terms of as a business owner, and not that the greed is whatever. It's like what do they really want? So like thinking about like say some tech companies that talk big about their diversity and equity and inclusion things, but don't do anything for investing any kind of internships or paid opportunities to the young people that's in the neighborhood. For example, like Facebook. I don't know what they're doing in East Menlo Park, but I doubt they're doing anything outside of and Daly City. I don't know what's around here anymore. Sorry. So maybe it's tackling them from a PR standpoint and saying like, hey, we already have this thing set up for you. All you need to do is link us up to your HR folks, your DI folks, and we have the young people to build that pipeline for you. They're local, it looks good for you. It supports our community, kind of thing. But I don't know if that actually works.
It's like having like that framework, right? That structured place on it, so people are clear about what it is that they're supporting. And if people want to, if something like sparks, feel free to, just because I move on from like certain questions, if something comes up again or dovetails with whatever we're talking about, feel free to like, chime in about that. We're kind of talking about, youth and, mentorship. What do you feel like you would want to mentor someone? I mean, I know you, Shelux is already doing that in terms of entrepreneurship, but, even just on a personal level, how do you see yourself wanting to mentor youth if you could? And what was something that you wish you had when you were young?
I'm always down to, I'm a big believer in that's the goal, is to have that mentor, role model relationship in whatever shape or form. It's just like having a youth attached to something, whether it's someone's magazine, podcast, anything. And just having these connections, I think this is where the learning's at, and the connections, and I want to say sometimes the meaning. So,
So I've been in the corporate world for like my whole life. And I went to school for accounting and finance. And I went into accounting, which is, I did Deloitte, external audit. I was in accounting for a long time, and then I wanted to switch over to finance, which if you're not in that world, you think it's the same, right? Finance and accounting are the same, but they're really not. And I did a whole career change, right? So from accounting to finance now. So I'm like a senior financial analyst at Sephora now. I was at StubHub before, and I think I would definitely mentor other people, and I do sometimes on career changes. And it's okay to like not do what you did in college, So that's what I would definitely do. It's scary for sure, and it's like, oh, money won't follow. I'm not good at this. I mean, there's a lot of different things, thoughts and stuff. So I think just not being afraid to just change your career and your lifestyle, and money, it will follow as long as you're happy with doing it. And I think everyone can relate to that. Yeah.
I think there's at least the thing that I grew up with, where you got to do the same thing for 30 years. No, I don't. I can do this for 10 years, and I can be like, dude, that was cool, and that give me the confidence to like I want to pursue something else now, or I want to pursue it in a different way, or in a different country, or whatever it may be. But this whole like retire 65, stay in the same thing. I'm like, it doesn't have to be. I mean, if you're happy with that, that's fine. And I think those, you talk about mentoring the youth. I think those are the things that, I mean, because that's what I do. So it's easy for me to just say that. But yeah, it's really just. One, I love to like listen to them. When I was young, I felt like I wasn't listened to. Or if you weren't saying what you were supposed to say, you wouldn't be listened to. And the other is just really, it's okay to fail. Actually, you can't go anywhere without failure. And that's one of the main things that we try to get across is, in your pursuit of whatever you're passionate about, part of it is this, up and down. It's you're falling short of whatever was your expectation doesn't define you. And I don't think I was ever told that. Maybe it was believed by my parents, but nobody ever told me that. And so you had all these you start to take on, when you do fall short, you take on those things as your identity. It's funny, everybody's talking about entrepreneurship, and I'm like, man, I failed at a lot of businesses, man. And I guess there's people, I always tell people there's some people who are really good at numbers and money, and they can see a business and see profits and be excited about it, and they're awesome at that. And that's not me. I see something I'm passionate about, and if you just go and get better and better at it, and you contribute through that, then people want to exchange with you, and they're like, dude, can I pay you? Yeah, all right, and then pretty soon, then you have to get better at your business. But that's another way. And I think that there are some young people out there who think, if I don't see those profits right, like I don't see it like those entrepreneurs, I can't be an entrepreneur. No, man, if you're passionate and you want to make an impact with your passion, and you can trade with people, and they'll trade with you. So I would love to mentor young people in that respect,
See you beginning to say something.
Well, because just a few days ago, I went out with my best friend. So she teaches like an after-school program, kindergartners. So her passion is really to mentor kids, early child development. With us in Chalugs, we like to mentor adults. And so we mentor adults because we want to mentor adults because they're the ones to teach the next generation, right? Because it's kind of like you can't change the habits, like the elderly, the adults. They grew up this way, this is how they were raised, they're strict that way. But then for me, I guess I'm just asking, I'm kind of just like as a discussion with you guys, it's my battle is, do we want to mentor adults to change so that they can change the mindset of their kids? Because how kids are always striving. I want to make my mom proud. I want to make my dad happy. I can't let them down. Filipinos have that mindset. Filipinos are like, I have to provide for my parents because they provided for me.
Yep.
So my question, and I've been battling it, is, do I want to mentor adults who are going to help their kids, or are we going to mentor the kids so that when they grow up, they do a different path from their family, but then they have confidence? It's kind of like, who should we focus on?
Answer is yes.
I know, I know, right? It's both.
Yeah,
it's both, but your focus, you can
For
choose.
yourself,
Right. So, because you want to help both. In the end, we want to give back to everybody. We want to give back to the kids because they're the next generation. But then they follow parents, and the parents are following something else, and that's not how the world is anymore, unfortunately. But then, do you want to mentor the adults? Can you mentor? That's just kind of something that's been on my mind too.
That's tough. It's like chicken and egg.
Yeah. My point exactly.
Yeah.
So.
Yes.
Well, yeah, I mean, so I coach kids from, I do basketball, I do jiu-jitsu, and I coach from 4 years old to adults my age in their 40s, you know. And the thing that I see is that when I tell like parents, your kids, you're gonna be happy with us here if you have the same values, you know. So then, as a parent, let's say you rank number one in the voice and impact in your kid's life, right? And you have these values you want to give your kids. Then they go to school and they've got little voices, but they got like 100 of them, right? So if I'm rank 5 as a coach or a teacher, man, if you can get more of those guys with the same values as I'm helping you with to not beat, but like to be louder than all those other little voices that could compete with you, you know. So, but if I have like, we're trying to create a culture of encouragement, but if the parents ain't encouraging, they're not happy when they come to class because they're like, you gotta push my kid, or you gotta do that, or I mean, you know, you hear things like that. So I think it's like, yeah, I want to help them all, but me personally, it's gonna be hard for me to help a kid if the most important people in his life, we have different values. And I'm not saying adopt my values, but you're gonna be like, you're trying to. Exactly. They're trying to strict them, and you're trying to open them up, and then it's gonna be tough, you know. Exactly. So I don't. That's just my thoughts on what you were saying. But there probably are a lot of parents and adults who share the same values and want to find a way to, like, they're getting it now, but they wish they got it when they were kids. So they're gonna be the ones who are gonna pull from you and then give it to those young people. So I don't know. That's just my 2 cents, you know.
I think it's 2 different tracks. I mean, it's kind of different. I think there's also like what generation they are, quote unquote, generation of American that they are. Because I think I had a mix. My mom was a lot more actually both of them were encouraging word-wise about like going for my passions. My dad said it all the time, but he also crapped on me after I graduated from college. I don't think he remembers it. I do. And a lot of it's like out of fear. Yeah. So it's out of fear and love that they do that. It's also probably for the folks that were here first opening up their businesses. There's a kind of a idea of scarcity where like there's only so many Filipinos around to go to my restaurant. That's right. But now there's hella Filipinos to go to all the restaurants so you can do more. So there's kind of like that flipping of that mentality. But I think it's important. I mean, there's one level of like connecting with the parents or the adults who do have those kids so that they can implement it. The thing is that they can implement it now. Yeah. When you're providing those mentorship opportunities for young people, it's a lifetime, but it's also a leap of faith. Right. Because I believe the work I do is going to make a difference. Yeah. I don't know until 5 years down the road. No, you're right, and you might not ever see it. But when you're working with the adults, you'll know it next week. I mean, quote unquote, a year from now if they're open, you know, whatever. So I haven't answered your question, but it's just. I think both things are important. I think both, because there is going to be a tendency to have more opportunities for young people because of that thing where it's like, oh, there's more of a kind of like esoteric like feeling about thinking about mentoring young people or mentoring kids, but that place of mentoring adults, young adults, even older adults in developing new business practices or whatever, it's not as like fluffy, even though it might be more tangible at the end. But it can happen. There's some programs that like around here doing like the anti-tobacco, like the tobacco prevention stuff, where they've worked with older business owners to flip how they organize their convenience stores. So instead of having a tobacco and alcohol up front, they put it in the back, and in the front they put in like fruit. Yeah. So it does. I mean, it's one in like hundreds, but it can happen.
Yeah, so kind of like framing it from the standpoint that, we're talking about the youth pipeline and opportunities for mentoring youth I mean, the program that we're trying to, that would be attached to the Cultural Arts and Wellness Center, which is like the core program, is a transitional age youth program, right, from 16 to 24. So I know, we're still talking about like adults versus youth, but if you picture yourself getting involved, for example, with what we're doing, what types of, if you could offer opportunities for youth, and I'm talking, I know I'm like particularly addressing like the people who have like catering business and also like the restaurant business, but what sort of opportunities do you think you might be able to, if you could, and if you were, I'm not saying you are, but if you could, what sort of opportunities for mentorship or internships do you think would be feasible or would work within like your business model or with what you're doing?
I mean, for us, we're always welcome, like anyone, if you don't know how to cook or, you're curious about, cooking in the kitchen, like, no, we'll take anyone, but the biggest thing is, like, they have to have that eagerness to want it, if I go to a community college and I was like, I'm looking for interns and they show up, I'm like, oh, well, today you're cutting a case of onions, they're going to be like, I don't want to do this, but, at the same time, it's like, it's that eagerness to learn, I think is the biggest thing. And, for the youth, it's a lot easier to kind of, incorporate and influence them rather than an adult because, adults have their ways. It's like, but for a kid, it's like if they see it and then, we're doing it, I feel like it's they'll see like the bigger picture, for me, like I never thought I'd be an entrepreneur, like, or have multiple businesses, like, my whole thing was, I was trying to do like the whole corporate world, like be a dishwasher, then be a cook, and then I'm a sous chef, then I'm a chef, and I'm an owner, and I saw like that's the very old school way to do it, and it's not the way it is now, and like for me, it's like, just giving those people those opportunities if they want to learn. That's the biggest thing. So yeah, as far as like, internships or maybe, me going to like a community center and doing like cooking classes, just ways that they can kind of be like, oh wow, this guy can, cook adobo, like I can do it too. Like, just like a commonality, as long as like, someone else can do it that's not a famous chef or anything, like it just kind of gives them that more like, comfortability, I guess, like, like it's commonality within people's. So yeah.
Sounds like it would be like a great hub, right? For those 60 to 24, and like even all of us, I would go to your class, how to cut an onion. I don't know.
Yeah,
like,
so just to like
great.
to clarify that that's the core program, but this is an intergenerational like space.
Yeah.
So yes, the opportunities are there for other classes. It's not just for the youth. I mean, that'll be like a program in itself, but then there'll be other things because it's a space that we want to actually open up for people to come do rent the space, do classes, mentor, so all things like that.
Sorry, I was having ideas.
Oh yeah, here.
Well, thinking about like with the adults again, being that you're talking about you coach people through career changes. That down the road, that could be one of the connections to the community is that there might be adults that have gone the routes that they thought their parents wanted them to go down, or that they thought they wanted to go down too, and realize they do want to go into culinary, or they do want to do something else, and providing that safe space for them to be able to make that decision and get some support on that. The other thing I was thinking about, like in terms of for the young folks, like the mentorship program, and this is what workforce development things do anyway, but I think for any businesses that do want to come in and have that kind of support, like where if they are down to welcome in some interns or part-time jobs or whatever the case is, providing those that intermediary kind of service so that they don't have to learn how to work with young people, because not all business owners know how to work with young people or transition age youth or young adults, right? But like providing that Like we could be the in between. We could be the agent in between to support, so that you don't have to figure out how to work in a certain kind of business, and you also don't have to change how you operate and figure out how to work with young people if that's not something that you do.
No, that's a good point. It's like having a point person. Say, these are some of the things that we can do if you're interested in working in that capacity.
I think one of the things that when I work with youth or adults, one of the things I like to do is, we talk a lot about passion, but some people don't know what their passion is, or they don't know how to define that. So, I mean, we do it with our scholars, we do it with adults, just like exercises to kind of almost like remember like when you were a kid and stuff like that, and just different things, but with the ultimate goal to get people to dream, really, and that it's okay. Because I feel like that's what happened to me. Somebody told me it was okay to dream. And it sounds silly that somebody has to tell you that, but just that changed my mindset.
Especially if our parents didn't.
Yeah.
It's because our parents.
They gave you the dream. They didn't tell you what to dream,
This is your dream.
Yeah. So, I mean, like with the kids in the Philippines, sometimes, these are some of our scholars, and you'll ask them, well, what are your, like, if you had all the money in the world, or if you didn't have it and all the time, what would you do? Well, I would help my parents. No, but they don't need help anymore because you have all the, So now what would you, I'm trying to take away the fears, take away like the what you lack. And it's hard, because that's why I go to school, because then so I can go back and help my parents. And that's super, I love that value, But at the same time, I think you need the other side, which, what are you passionate about? Do you know how to dream, and do you know how to recognize that in other people? Because I think that's what a lot of, we were talking about the community, like, I don't know, I would do stuff just because I like being around people who are pursuing, like, passionate people and like who want to make an impact. I don't need anything else back from it except to be around other people like that and, push for something. But that's one thing I would be willing to do, is like, do little things with young people, like to help them discover their passion. And then, and I mean, it doesn't have to become a business, just, something,
Exactly. It doesn't have to be within the realm of business. It's like, like you said, coaching them about the possibilities for their lives.
I mean, that's what I wish someone had done for me, so earlier on. So I don't know.
Don't we all?
That's how I feel about doing. I think, so I'm not in the food industry. I'm a designer. I'm a graphic designer. I think that's how I feel about design, where I would love to just come in and just like, let's create something. Let's tell stories. I think one of the things when I graduated a long time ago, but when I was in school, design wasn't all about apps. You know what I mean? It was actually about storytelling, and I think that's where my passion lies in design. And I would love to like coach kids and even adults, and like reminding us that we all have stories, and we can all express it. And sometimes you just gotta like unlock certain things, but I think it's there. I would love to do that, especially for sure.
It's exciting.
I know,
I've heard a lot of
exciting.
people saying, I would love to do this. So, with that said, I know everybody's like busy, but in terms of like, if you did do something like that, like come in, like say the center's already like up and running, what's like feasible in terms of like committing to, coming in to coach or coming in to share stories about like the graphic design world or something, like whatever it is that your paths or professions that you have. What's the feasibility? I mean, we're all such busy people. And I like that idea about like the intermediary, but kind of like from your own personal standpoint.
If I were to, so I used to teach parenting classes. So for example, if it was already a structured thing, like I could see myself giving once a week because that's what the that's what a class does, right?
Yeah.
But if it's for like a mentoring, it's just like meet a nurse, right? If anyone's interested in nursing, once a month. And I mean, there's a lot of nurses out in the community. It's not just going to be me. There's a gangload of people to choose from who could sit there and just put a face to whatever jobs are out there for designers that kids or the youth would want to pursue.
Yeah, it could be like a
once a
in the
month.
form of a workshop, right? It
yeah.
doesn't necessarily
Once a
have to be
month.
like I see you every week. Or,
Yeah, once a month.
I think from like if coming from like a design perspective, I'd be open to like 6-week intensives or like once a week or twice a week for 6 weeks or workshops as well. I think there's so many different options.
Yeah, so many possibilities.
So many possibilities. I guess it just depends on like infrastructure or like how it's set up, right? But for sure, like I have friends that are designers, but they teach at night. I'm like, how do you teach at night? Like, I only teach once a week. I'm like, oh, okay. But and they teach for like 3 hours once a week, and it's so rewarding for them. And I think that those are if that's the direction, like this is it's a good one for sure.
Yeah, so I think we have a couple minutes if anybody else would like to add to that or answer something else. Feel free to, or say any kind of like, closing thoughts about this experience or this platform or what we're trying to do.
It's great. When are you guys trying to start this? I mean, I only heard bits and pieces about like this project. Is there a projected start date? I know you guys just got a grant.
So right now, it hasn't been like officially approved. we have to go through all the channels. So we're scheduled to go before the state. So it's like the OAC commission, and so I think that's like the end of March. So if all kind of how government can run sometimes. Sometimes there's like bureaucracy. But if everything goes well, there's an RFP that's going to go out because we're not a nonprofit, and so we'd have, we have talked to people who, we think might be good shepherds, good partners for this particular program, and so if whoever gets the bid, then they would get the money would be dispersed. I think July 1st. Yeah. And so there's a startup period. Obviously, it's not. We're still looking around, and that's gonna. We've been working with like commercial real estate, asking the city, both in San Francisco and on the Daly City side. So we're still like looking. So if anybody knows of spaces, I mean, it might also depend.
It's been there for a long time.
And we also recognize that, like, whoever ends up getting the organization that ends up getting the grant, they may have some existing spaces or some connections that would be, would help.
You guys see PBRC on the corner near Dugan?
Yeah.
But the only thing with, you guys know where that is? But the only thing is, there was talk in the past that was actually going to be demolished because they want to put housing there.
Yeah.
So I think.
I know. They are going to demolish that space.
Okay.
But they're going to find a new home. PBRC's, we talked to Tita Perla. I don't know. I'm not familiar with this ultimate video.
It's just right down. It's like this closed building.
Oh,
It's a new
wow.
video store. Yeah.
Okay. Well, and it's in the same side as PBRC.
It's like.
I give y'all a 2-minute warning.
I'm sorry. We're done with the formal discussion. This is just more like wrapping up and connecting.
We're like come back together for our closing.
All right, thank you everybody for your input, your time. I know it's a Saturday, so we really are so grateful that you're here.
Cool, man.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay. She said, "I gave you 10."
This is our sign.
Was it something to think about?
1 minute rule.
First question about what do you see in terms of business Filipino-owned businesses and stuff like that, in comparison to Chinatowns. And I can only speak for. I worked in Oakland Chinatown for a few years and kind of seeing how it goes. And it's a thriving Chinatown because the elders are still going there, and they're going there for a reason. And so there's restaurants and there's other things where people like outsiders or workers around can go there, but the elders keep it like existing because they're still going there for like groceries, random like everything, paper, wrapping paper, all that stuff. Like they know where to go, and it's like it's close there. But essential help like that, I don't know if that exists in like Daly City or South City. I think a lot of it's spread out. But at the same
Yeah,
time,
I think if it was more centralized, I mean, I think that's the kind of like division in some of Filipinos in San Francisco. It's like, you know, we have the Japan towns, we have the China towns, we have Little Saigon, but then there's no corridor with, you know, like that's just strictly like one. It doesn't have to be like a lot. It could be just a block of just Filipino-owned businesses. You know, retail, food, you know, whatever. Like,
too.
Yeah.
If it's all restaurants, which is cool, but then
yeah, it has a variety.
or else it's gonna
Did
be.
you guys say it has to do with economics though? Right, the rent in Soma area is like.
Oh yeah, it's pretty crazy, but I mean, there's a lot of money that's just like waiting. Like there's this Soma committee. They have $4.1 million to spend. You know, so Republica, that's a project that my buddy's doing. You know, West Bay wants to buy a building, you know, for 3.1 mil. I mean, there's a lot of
Nonprofits.
yeah, so there's a lot of money to be to be spent. It's just like we don't have like, you know, I guess
We need for-profit.
ideas and so I don't
We need
know.
some like mixture of like nonprofit development or city development that commits to subsidize or like if they own the land, there's the property taxes, but then so it's sustainable rent,
Right.
especially for pillar kind of businesses, and not that restaurants aren't. It's just more like, again, like what are the families going to be going to all the time? Not everyone's going to eat out every week, but everyone's going to go to a grocery store once a week because they have to. So.
You guys know the property.
No.
We're all leaving. So I was just thinking about it.
We don't own any
I want to see like what's. I think
Yeah,
she
the
said
business
that
thing,
we're
that's
getting back together,
hard,
but I don't know where
because I think
where
that,
we're supposed to head. So I'll be back. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, you don't think about like aside from like food and things like that. You know, am I going to like Filipino accountant or something like that?
Yeah,
I mean,
something.
You know what I
Just-
mean?
Yeah, just, you know.
Whereas if you're in like a kind of like a Chinatown, well, they're all whoever's there. I mean, it's gonna be Chinese, you know. But no, I don't know if that's. I mean,
I think they own the buildings too.
that's a.
In Chinatown?
Economics.
No, in Oakland, Chinatown, they don't. Most of the people.
Well, San Francisco.
San Francisco.
Well, in
Oh, yeah, I think
Oakland,
so.
most of the business owners are renting, and most of the owners of those buildings. That's where the tension is right now. Is that Oakland, like everywhere else in the Bay, rent. If they demolish all those stores, then we'd be getting more condos, right?
And not.
And so that would be displacing all the elders. I think what's keeping that around is that the elders are still there, but once the elders all die off, what's going to happen? Like, is there going to be community outcry to keep those storefronts existing for new?
So we're all
We're all moving.
head back to the.
Stop talking. No more talking.